So there is a space beneath which is the one, and I always see this as down, not up. So the one, the divine, is down here. Okay? So let's just draw a line for that. Okay? And down in this area is the one. And what's down here is light, pure light, beautiful, brilliant, extraordinary light all around. That light, as it starts to express itself in you, travels through a portal. And as it comes up through this portal, it crosses an event boundary. And at this event boundary, and this is the event boundary is the plane described by the top of the portal. As the light travels through that event boundary, it goes from being the divine in the space of oneness to the divine in you. And the only thing that has changed is that now that light has traveled up this portal. It's the same light. It has exactly the same characteristics. Nothing has changed other than that light is expressing itself in you. And as that light travels up, there are little grains of sand in a layer here, but they're not so organized, they're sort of random. And above that are screens. And these screens look like movie screens to me. But rather than being hung to project like this, they're hung flat. So as the light comes up, they catch the light. And these screens have labels on them, some of which we can understand. Some of them say physical body or subconscious or conscious mind. Some of them have labels that we don't understand, and some of them have no labels. And there are many more than 4. That's just what would fit on the paper. And then at the last layer is the last screen. And when I saw this, it showed up as what looked to me like a picture, what I've seen in pictures of the Sistine Chapel, the interior of the Sistine Chapel. And there were columns over here on the side that defined the space. And this space was many, many stories tall. And so there are many, many more screens than what are represented in this picture here. And when I saw it, what I saw was a scaffolding that had been erected here. And at the top, there's the person. And they're laying on their back, and they have a paintbrush in their hand, and they're dipping their paintbrush into their palette, into something called red, and they pull away. And if you and I are over here on the side looking at them, we can see objectively that that is red paint. And they go to paint on the ceiling. And this is somebody who's awake enough in their life to know that they have an authorship role in their life. They are creating their outward world. And that's what this last screen is. This last screen is the outward expression of your life or this person's life. And they're awake enough to know, I can go paint on that ceiling. I can go create it. I don't just have to sit here and watch what's being projected. So maybe this is our person who learned the law of attraction. But this person, if we roll the tape back, they've been doing this for 20 or 30 years. And we look at them, they dip their paintbrush in, and they paint on the ceiling, but instead of red paint showing up, what's showing up is a dark brown color. Now, we can see, now, that dark brown is not what they want. They're painting for, let's say, financial abundance. That's what red is a metaphor for. But what's showing up is dark brown, not financial abundance. And they've been doing this for 20 or 30 years, and they're like, what is going on? They've gone to workshops, and they've gone and talked to the best experts on the planet, and they've done all these things, and they've been told do this, and they continue to do it, but it is not showing up. What's the problem? This light, from our perspective over here, we see this light is casting shadows. And these shadows, depending on the frequency of the sand, may cast on one or 2 or 3 or all of the screens, and this particular shadow that's being cast is from a dark green bit of sand, and it's casting a shadow over the entire ceiling. So a dark green shadow combined with red paint shows up as brown. Now, they could go visit a specialist in the subconscious, and I have good friends who are incredible in their expertise with the subconscious. But notice that if you have a belief that the subconscious is the deepest level of the self, you're missing it here. And I have friends in the medical community who do extraordinary work in the physical body, and that's amazing. But let's not ignore the energetic root of what these things are that are being cast up. And if you recall, in our earlier lesson, I talked about perspective. And the perspective is, if you can get into this space here, you can get into this space, what you have is an experience of yourself for who you are, which is an expression, an extension of the divine in your body. Your mind, your body, and your soul are still all present here. And you experience yourself as the full light shining into you. There's nothing that's breaking that up. And that is the critical perspective change that is required for actually getting rid of these bits of sand. Now, what are these pieces of sand? I think of them as soul wounds, W-O-U-N-D-S. But it doesn't really matter what we could call them. We could call them blue or purple or something other than a color. It's irrelevant. What matters is that this is the first layer of the illusion of separation between ourselves and the divine.